Howdy guys, it's Joe here, and today I want to talk to you guys about why you might want to pick yourself up a bad character, why you might want to play a bad character in addition to who you're already playing. You really just go on from there. Now, before we get started, I do want to say that I'm not really going to call out any exact characters for being bad characters. It switches around all the times, but mainly I'm just talking about non-meta characters, weaker characters, characters that just have a very low pick rate, anybody kind of like that you just don't really honestly see way too often. And as well, before we get started, in a week or so, I'm going to make a video about the other side of the coin about why you might want to pick an OP character and the benefits of those. So if you're completely against picking one of these characters, well, wait a week and I'll be right there for you. Anyways, with that said, let's get straight into the topic today and just go on to my first reason why it's a really good idea in some cases to pick a bad character, or a lesser played character I should say. Now, the first thing that I feel like is really important and really strong about picking one of these characters is the power of obscurity. And let me give you guys a real life example of this and kind of how this kind of works. So let's say that you are an MMA person, you're a Taekwondo person, you're a wrestler, you're a boxer, anything like that, a combat type of person. And you've been going through a lot of games, you've been going through a lot of matches for years and years on end, and you've been fighting essentially the same type of enemies, you know? They're always going for these certain punches, certain kicks, whatever you're doing, and they do very similar things over and over again. You kind of get used to them, you get used to your enemies, you know how to read them, you know what they're going to do, you know their strategies, and you can kind of pull off against them because you've had a lot of experience. Now imagine one day somebody pulls out a strategy that is completely different. Let's say the drunken fist. What some people could say is not quite as strong, not quite as equivalently good, but you don't know exactly how to actually counter that. When you're going in, you just don't know what moves they're going to pull out. They juke you out, they do all this other stuff, they just go for things that you aren't used to, and in the end, you just get bodied and get whomped onto the floor. And that's what I'm going to say is essentially the same thing as picking one of these characters that is obscure. While your techniques, while your usefulness isn't quite as strong as some of the other characters, it is made up almost completely or even more than completely by the enemy not having knowledge about how to face you. If they don't know your checks, if they don't know what beats you exactly, and if you know more about what to do to counter them than they know how to counter you, you can win a lot of matchups even though you theoretically shouldn't do it. Works in real life, and it also works in Overwatch really well. So try to remember that when you're picking one of these guys. Think about what you can do, and think about how the enemies might not know what you can do. I feel like a really good example of this for a while was Pharah. People really didn't know about her flanking maneuvers. She was very good at that, could take people out from behind, and people just weren't really used to that. So a lot of Pharahs got really good, carried themselves up a lot, even when they weren't that great of a character. Just the obscurity factor kind of helped them out a lot, and that's what I'm going to say about that. Now, next and very importantly is the fact that you can almost always play your character, like 99% of the time. And I feel like a lot of people kind of just shove this under the rug, and I don't exactly know why. The fact of being able to play your main almost every single game, I feel like is extremely important in helping yourself, you know, climb up the ladder. Now, of course, this does correlate to you wanting to play your main every game, but having the ability to, and especially utilizing the ability to, gives you much more experience on your character in a much faster rate than anyone else can really occur. Of course, if you're playing someone like Mercy that no one else is locking in, well, you can get a lot of time as that character, while other people just aren't really getting as much time on whatever supports they're playing. You know, they're having to switch up, play a lot of different people in the meta, while you're getting a ton of experience on this one person. Here I'd say that experience can kind of just outdo strength in a different way. It's not quite the same as being an obscure character and pulling off tactics that people aren't ready for. It's just simply pulling off your lesser tactics to a higher degree than the enemies. Sure, the enemy might have some really nice stuff that they can pull off, but maybe the player can't do it while you're playing this person you've had a lot of time on that you obviously can. You put in a ton more experience, a ton more work, and now you can pull off stuff that makes up for the fact that your character isn't quite as strong at this exact patch. Now, it may be hard, you may have to put in 2 times, 3 times as much work, 2 times, 3 times as much hours, but you'll be able to get that chance to do that, while a lot of other people just simply can't because their people are being chosen way too much. So I feel like that can be a pretty good thing about this. And the final thing that you should keep always on your mind if you're playing one of these guys is the simple fact that Overwatch buffs a lot of characters really hard and makes these characters that are really not all too great into some of the best characters in the meta. And one of the huge benefits about picking one of these characters that isn't often played is that if they do happen to get buffed, which they likely will considering the past of Overwatch, you're gonna get some really massive SR gain. This will just all really come from the fact that you are good as this character, while other people are just kind of faking it till they make it. They aren't quite good at them yet, they don't know exactly how to play them, don't know how to aim as them, don't know how to position quite well yet, while you should already know how to do all this stuff, and then you should be able to just pull that all out, do a lot better than them, and carry yourself up quite a bit with this brand new great character. Again, we saw huge examples of this. Diva was probably the main one, and it can work for you. It'll probably end up happening. Now, the problem with this doesn't always happen, but of course, you got to keep this in the back of your mind. It's always a great thing about playing one of these guys, and even if this doesn't actually come to fruition with your character, there's still all the other benefits, so it's still worth picking them in a lot of the situations. Anyway, that's at least what I personally feel about the subject. If you feel anything else, please make sure to leave it in the comment section down below. If you're man anyone that you feel like personally isn't way too strong, leave that as well and tell me why you might want to be playing one of these guys. Anyways, as always, if you guys did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more future content like this, or if you want to see the one up talking a little bit about overpowered characters or the top tiers, the most meta ones. And as always though, guys, have a wonderful day.